What's going on, guys? It's Seth Berger back with Defense Wins Fantasy. Decided to mix it up a little bit on the intro. Get us a little more pumped up, get a little fire going. We're almost to August, which we're in training camp. Every training camp has started, which means one thing. All the hype news is around. Get excited for it because most of it's just coach talk and everybody's going to win the Super Bowl and every player is the next Hall of Famer. You got to love it. The key, though, is to try to read between the lines, understand whether or not your players are doing well by getting multiple sources. Don't just take it from the coaches because they're going to say, hey, yeah, man, they're doing great. Everybody's great. Everybody's the best player I've ever seen. They look the best they've ever looked in their career. They're in the best shape of their lives. All that's going to come out and more. But what you need to focus on are snaps when we get to the preseason, when they're playing, if they're playing early with the team, with the ones, if they're coming in second or third string. See where they're going with all that. Make sure that the players you're looking at and focus on for your drafts are actually getting the playing time that you think they should be, and are they playing with the right players, the first team. Other thing to think about, when you look at box scores during the preseason, just don't. If you're not watching the game or understand when those occurred, especially when it comes to defense, offense, you kind of get it, It's you're used to watching that, but when you look at defense, you're like, wow, that dude had 15 tackles. Wow, that dude's on the third team. That's why he got 15 tackles in the game, because he actually got to play a lot. Don't expect that much. One player last year, a good example of that is Micah Parsons. When he was playing, he was putting up really impressive stats in the preseason, but it was very small instances of him having big plays, some sacks, fumbles, things like that. So if you look at the box score at the end of the game, you're like, well, he had an okay game. No, he had a great game for playing in like 5 reps, 5 series. So if you're going to focus on that kind of stuff, you really kind of need to watch the preseason, make sure when those are happening, and make sure that they're playing against the other team's first team. That also matters. So we do have a little bit of breaking news. Pretty excited for Mr. Metcalf. He just got paid. 3-year extension, $72 million. Good for him. I don't know how great he feels about who's going to be throwing him the ball, but I guess it doesn't matter if you got the money. So, great, super. I honestly didn't expect him to stay in Seattle. I thought that they would end up moving him just because I felt with the quarterback situation, maybe he wouldn't really be that happy about staying there. But I was wrong. They've got him locked up for 3 years. And it's pretty much outside of Debo, all the wide receivers that have made noise this offseason have been signed. Obviously with Debo, it probably has a little bit more to do with Garoppolo still being on the team. So that was really well planned by the 49ers. But it is what it is. He'll have to figure it out. He is at camp, so you got that going for you. But we'll see if he ends up getting paid or decides to make more of a stink about it. But at this point, he seems like he's being quite a team player. So that team itself has to appreciate that. But it'll probably cost him even more in the near future. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and dive into the final divisional breakdowns of our breakouts, busts, and players to watch. Once again, busts speak for themselves. Guys that just aren't going to cut it this year. Breakouts are guys that are going to really come onto the scene. And players to watch are the ones that either I am pro-watching or worried about their future, essentially. They might not, sway one way or the other. They're a little bit tougher to crack, so I want to make sure that we keep an eye on them and that you are aware of those players. The first team we're going to go after in the AFC North is the Cincinnati Bengals. And with the bust player, it has to be, right? Eli Apple, cornerback. Surprise, surprise, right? He was pretty fantasy relevant last year, don't get me wrong. He had 49 tackles, 2 picks, and 10 passes defended. World-beating numbers? No, not hardly, but startable in leagues that you had cornerbacks as a position that you had to play? Sure. Maybe a bye week fill-in. But he had some rough games, and everybody knows it. I mean, they had some rough games. And the Bengals, what did they do? Well, they had issues with their offensive line, so they went out and got a bunch of offensive linemen, and they had issues with their secondary, so they went out and drafted Dax Hill and Cam Taylor-Britt in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. Apple's not going to finish the season as a starting cornerback with play like last year. It's just not going to happen. They signed him to a 1-year deal as a placeholder until Taylor-Britt's ready to start, or Dax Hill. On the bright side, Apple is, for Apple is that Jesse Bates is refusing to show up to camp, and so that could force Dax Hill, instead of playing corner, he might be playing safety. Dax is so flexible and so versatile that he has the capability of doing that. So maybe that only gives Apple one person that he has to deal with out of the draft class instead of 2. But time will tell. It's still early in the offseason, so we'll see how that breaks out. But Jesse Bates was franchise tagged, and they didn't get a deal, so we'll have to see how that one plays out. Next up is my breakout player. This is probably one of my personal favorite players on the Bengals, really probably in the NFL, and that's Logan Wilson, linebacker. He's coming out of his 3rd year out of Wyoming, and the dude had 100 tackles in 13 games. He only played in 13 games due to some injuries, but he still had 100 tackles. He also had 4 picks, 4 interceptions for a linebacker. Heck yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about. He also had 2 his rookie year, so it's something that he's good at. Right place, right time kind of guy. He's an all-around player, and last year he only played 62% of snaps. 100 tackles on 62% of snaps. Are you kidding me? The tackles are there. The playmaking is there. This is a year that his playing time is going to increase, and he's going to launch himself into stardom. Logan Wilson is a guy that you want to grab on your team if you can, before people realize just how good he can be. Because when you got a guy that's making that kind of defensive plays with interceptions, oh man, you're got a guy, obviously, 1, he's staying on the field during passing downs, and 2, those are big-time plays that you're getting points off of. And like I said, 100 tackles in 13 games. Heck yeah. Go get Logan Wilson if you can. One of my favorite players in the NFL right now. Actually, I have a story about that before we move on. Drafted Logan Wilson in the 5th round of our rookie draft, 3 years ago, essentially, yeah. And then ended up trading him because the guy asked for him in a move that I needed to make to be able to win the championship, which I ended up winning the championship partly because of that trade that I made, but it just didn't feel right knowing that I had known this guy was going to be good. He was good, proven good, showed everything that I thought that he could show, and now he's sitting on another team. So this offseason, I well overpaid for him, and I traded back for him on my team just because I believe in him that much. I think he's a future top 5 linebacker in this league with that kind of playmaking ability. And it just makes me feel happy. You got those guys that you just got that crush on. This is one for me, Logan Wilson. Moving on to the player to watch for the Cincinnati Bengals is, I already spoke a little bit about him, Dax Hill, cornerback safety. One of my top-ranked guys out of the rookie class because of his versatility. He's a first-round pick, and he's extremely versatile. That once again, he can play corner, he can play nickel, he can play safety, and because of that, he's going to have more opportunities. With Jesse Bates not coming to camp, Dax might be pushed into the starting role sooner than later in the safety realm. It seemed like they wanted to kind of get him in a year and then move him into kind of the safety situation, but Jesse Bates is kind of forcing their hand. That puts Dax in a great situation. So why is he on your player to watch list? Well, 1, because Logan Wilson was my breakout player. But 2, We need to see what position he's playing. If he ends up playing safety this year, huge value, because most leagues has him cornerback eligible, and D-back, you want to have the safeties out of that anyway because of the tackle upside that you'll have there. If he's playing nickel corner, you're going to get higher tackles but less snaps. So there's some trade-off there, not nearly as good as safety. And if he's playing starter corner, he's going to have more opportunities for interceptions and pass defended, but less tackles. So ideally, when you're watching the preseason, when you're seeing where Dax Hill's lining up, when you see the depth chart, safety, huge value, that's where you want him to be at. Nickel corner, it can be successful, but it all depends on how they're running their defense. And that's not really fun because that's normally week to week, and you're really not going to be able to start him confidently. And starting corner is a crapshoot. It really is. I mean, he could be a guy like Singletary and Sauce Gardner, where they pick on him a lot and he gets a lot more opportunities if he's a starting corner, or he's just not going to be relevant, especially if it's just D-back and not a separation between cornerback and safety in your league. But Dax Hill is definitely a player to watch. Once again, with Jesse Bates not coming to camp, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Moving on to the Ravens, my bust pick. Now, just to give you a little bit of understanding on where this guy's at. So last year, this linebacker played all 17 games and ended with 98 tackles. Once again, we just talked about Logan Wilson, played 13 games, had 100 tackles in that 13 games. But this guy played all of them and didn't even make it to 100 tackles. And that's been kind of the story for 2 years with Patrick Queen, linebacker for the Ravens. He's really just been kind of mediocre for a first-round draft pick for him. He's actually had less tackles and less sacks in 2021 and played one more game. His coverage ability as a rookie was terrible, and somehow that got worse in his sophomore season. And in his sophomore season, 7 out of 17 games, he had 4 tackles or less. What are you doing, middle linebacker, man? Like, what the heck? I don't think he's going to lose playing time to the extent of some of the other linebackers that I've talked about that have had coverage issues. But even with all the playing time he's been getting, he has not shown up. In 2020, he was the 21st linebacker ranked. And in 2021, he fell to the 56th linebacker in point per game ranking. That's borderline unstartable. You definitely didn't pick him up to be a third linebacker on your team. And even if you're doing that, we're talking 56th, man. Like, you shouldn't have him on the waiver wire. I don't understand it. Like, he was great at LSU. He went to a team replacing C.J. Mosley, so you just were like, plug and play with this guy, and it just has not worked out as far as fantasy goes. And the sad part is it could get even worse. If they start to take him off the field for passing downs or nickel coverage, it's not looking bright for Patrick Queen. He's only 22 years old, so he has time to figure it out. But it's not feeling like it's going to be this year. Now, when we talk about the breakout player, that's Kyle Hamilton, rookie safety out of Notre Dame. This guy's the real deal. I mean, he's 6'4", he's 220 pounds. He fell to them in the draft. At one point was expected to be a top 3 pick in the draft. I still expected the Texans to possibly take him at 3, even up to draft night. And he's a safety that's a ball hawk. He can cover. He can play in the box. He can stuff the run. And he's going to become the focal point of this defense. They were phenomenal with Ed Reed, But this guy is even more physical than Ed Reed was. Yeah, he dropped in the draft a little bit because his 40 time was slower, but when you're talking about a guy that's going to be playing center field, he's got sideline to sideline speed, and he's got meeting the ball carrier speed up on the line of scrimmage. He can close the gap. And part of my Patrick Queen fear of him becoming even more of a bust is that they start putting Hamilton as linebacker on passing down / nickel formations. If I was the Ravens and Patrick Queen is such a liability and you got a 6'4" behemoth safety that can do it, pull Queen off the field, put another safety back there, and have Kyle Hamilton take care of the middle of the field. His versatility is what makes him so valuable. He should never come off the field, no matter what down and distance, and he's going to become a stalwart IDP player for years to come. Going back to my What's My Age Again podcast early on, if you're just joining me, scroll on back in there. It's very good information. As I said, safeties hit their peak very early, just like I said last week with Javon Holland, and they maintained that peak for a very long time, up past 31, 32 years of age. You get this guy on your team, you set and forget, and you just get points. Simple as that. Player to watch is the Ravens' 2021 first-round draft pick, and that's Jason Owa, linebacker / defensive end. Now, they took him late in 2021 draft, and he was raw. As expected, that's what they knew when they were getting him. It was going to take a little bit of time to get into NFL caliber capabilities, with the moves. He's got a bunch of skill sets, but he doesn't have anything really formulated. No real great pass rushing moves, nothing like that. He has to learn, and he had to get better and get the foundations. But he has 4.37 speed, and you can't teach that. That speed was put to good use as his rookie year. He has a tune of 5 sacks and 12 hurries in very limited play. Now, he did have off-season foot surgery, but has been cleared for being a full participation for training camp. And the Ravens have been looking for the new Terrell Suggs, and Jason Owa might be that guy. Again, at this point in time, he's my player to watch because he's not consistent enough to be rostered if he is just a linebacker-eligible player. But if he's defensive end / D-line eligible, scoop him up, have him hang on your bench. He's a player to watch because we need to see more consistency out of him, and hopefully that'll come in year 2. But at this point, he isn't necessarily trustworthy as a weekly fantasy asset in IDP formats yet, but he 100% warrants our monitoring. Even if you don't put him on your roster, go ahead and star him or put it as that player to watch so you can just kind of keep tabs on him as the season goes. And once again, check out snap percentages. We need him to be more than just a pass rush specialist coming into year 2. He has to be out there for some rushing downs as well to get that fantasy value up. It's all about opportunities. The more opportunities you have, the better you'll be, unless your name's Patrick Queen. So that takes us to the Cleveland Browns, which, it's been one of the more Brown off seasons I've seen in a while from them. And of course it is. But we're talking about defense, so we will leave that other side alone. My bust player is Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end. Number 1 pick of yesteryears, he re-signed again with the Browns for a 1-year deal. He stated that he wanted to play with Watson. And I'm pretty sure that's what got Deshaun in trouble in the first place. But Watson's going to miss time, maybe the whole year, which will leave the Browns in not a great offensive situation. Jacoby Brissett is set to be their starting quarterback right now. That'll lead to less pass rush attempts for the defense because you have to be winning for the other team to be passing more and trying to catch up. And why does that matter for Jadeveon Clowney? Well, in games that Clowney didn't have a sack, he was the 93rd ranked defensive end in the league. And that was 8 games last year. Woof. Boomer bust, and I lean more to the bust due to the lack of the offense, his age, the lack of tackles when defending the run. Jadeveon is past his prime. He has had a wonderful career. Much better than I thought. Let me rephrase that. I thought he was going to be much better as a whole, but since leaving Houston, he's been better than I expected him to be. Continuing to do these one-year deals is whatever, but I don't know. Like, he was so dominant coming in, right? Like, everybody saw the hit that he basically just killed that player in college and just picked up the ball and thought this guy is going to run the league. He played second fiddle to J.J. Watt, but was very talented and did a lot of really good things in Houston. And then when he left, I was like, okay, well, that was a fun run. He's kind of done. But he was all right in Seattle, and he was solid in Cleveland last year and solid in – no, he wasn't solid in Tennessee. That was basically a lost year. But overall, really good career. Not Hall of Fame, but really good career. But at this point, fantasy-wise, I think that he is not going to be relevant for your team. But my breakout player, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker for the Cleveland Browns, also known as JOK, thankfully, is going to have a very interesting second year. He had a solid rookie season, and this is why I think that he's really going to come into his own this year. He started slow in regards to snap percentages. First 4 games of the season were 38%, 30%, 51%, and 50%. Compared to the last 4 games of the season, fantasy relevant games that is, 97%, 89%, 74%, and 75%. So that's progress. You got to be on the field to get the opportunities to make plays. And he had 76 tackles and a sack and a half, playing just over 50% of all snaps last year. The Browns' defense has always been, or at least most recently, has been very beneficial to middle linebackers. So I expect that JOK will become a full-time starter this year. Now, will he play on the outside or middle is still to be determined, but I expect either way for him to have more tackle consistency. And he's got great coverage ability, like safety level coverage ability. They even talked about him playing safety when he got to the NFL. So his 3-down role is secure, in my opinion. And in his future, I expect him to cross the 100 tackle threshold this year. And he's shown the ability to get to the quarterback. I also expect him to get, an interception or 3 this year with more pass defenses. And remember, JOK missed some time last training camp due to being in the COVID protocol, so he didn't get that full offseason. Even with a rookie, it's shortened, kind of weird offseason. So it's going to be even more interesting to see how it all pans out. But he is my breakout player. I think that this is a year that he's going to become a startable asset for your team. And going forward, the sky's the limit with a guy with this kind of ability. My player to watch for the Cleveland Browns is safety Grant Delpit. So he missed his entire rookie year due to a torn Achilles. Just absolute brutal. Just, you got to feel for the guy. And last year, coming, first year back from that Achilles, he progressively got better as the year went on. In fact, he averaged just under 8 tackles a game down the stretch and was playing 97% of the snaps at the end of the season. He played 53% of the snaps last year. Most of that lower percentage at the beginning of the year, obviously, if I was saying that he played 97% at the end of the year. So they ramped him up, got him up there. And he had 63 tackles, a sack, and a pick. So if you take that as his kind of rookie year, because he really never had one, and it was coming off an injury, an Achilles injury, I think that Grant Delpit's a guy that can take the next step this season and become a player that he was drafted to become. High draft capital player. I believe it was 2nd round pick. And he's on my player to watch just as a precursor to the breakout. I can easily see him breaking into the top 20 DBs this year if everything breaks the right way. But once again, Achilles are a fickle injury. It's kind of like where the ACLs were years ago. There's not a lot of track record of people tearing them and coming back and being successful. But he's very young, so he has the capability. He proved last year that he can play. And, I expect him only to get more healthy, more accustomed, less of that mental hurdle of breaking and cutting on that repaired Achilles. So you expect him just to get better and better, and I expect him to do better this year. But once again, keep him on your watch list, but this is a guy that I'd probably go ahead and grab and stash on your bench. Now we move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the bust player is Cameron Hayward, D-tackle/D-line. Now listen, this is considered a bust player, but it's one of those bust players because it will almost be impossible to repeat the stats that he had last year. 89 tackles from the D-tackle spot. It's again just like Christian Wilkins, just insane tackle numbers. But he also had 10 sacks. Oh, and he had an interception. And 9 passes defended or knocked down because of the line of scrimmage. Insane year. Just absolute insane year. But he's 33 years old. And he had literally his best season as a pro last year. Can he repeat? Probably not. Most likely not, right? But in 2019, he has a season pretty close to this one. Like 85 tackles and like 12 and a half sacks. No interceptions, though, so, pick it up, Cameron. So hope's not all lost if he's on your team. It's just unlikely. But if you have D tackles in your league, good God, he's just fantastic to have. I mean, we're talking Aaron Donald level stats from last year. And that's why he was talking about him saying that he's just as good as Aaron Donald. Last year, sure, you were right up there with him. Career-wise, not even close. But Cameron Hayward has had a phenomenal career for the Steelers, played his entire career there. It's again, 33 years old now. I remember when he was drafted out of Ohio State, and he has just been a stalwart on that D-line for a really long time. I just don't think that you're going to get another 90 tackles and 10 sack season. I still think you're going to have a great year out of him, just not that. Now, breakout-wise is Alec Highsmith. He's a linebacker/defensive line eligible in most leagues. And he's the reason why they let Bud Dupree walk. They felt confident in Alex, and they felt like he could basically carry the torch and not have to pay Dupree all of that money. In his second season, he improved in sacks from 2 to 6. He improved from tackles from 48 to 74. He improved on his hurries from 5 hurries to 12 and run stuffs from 6 to 19. Part of that's more playing time. He went from 42% to 74%. But part of it's because he's just becoming a better pro. He's getting better at defensive moves, at breaking blocks, at coverage. Just being able to be on the field more shows that he is getting better at all facets of the game. And once again, Highsmith in most leagues is defensive line eligible. And that's the beauty of him. He's trending upward in all the right categories. Check that box. He'll get more tackles than a standard defensive lineman. Check that box. Once again, we're talking about how amazing it is that Cameron Hayward had 89 tackles as a D tackle or D lineman. Highsmith had 74 last year, and I think there's room for improvement. So that's why that's important. And with so much emphasis needed on Cameron Hayward, who we just spoke about, and, of course, T.J. Watt, Highsmith will see a lot of one-on-one blocking schemes because they can't double team everyone. And he's getting better and better at defeating the blockers. So he's just going to improve. Again, he's moving in the right direction. He's still young. He's still learning. He hasn't hit that peak yet. And I look for him to become a double-digit sack guy and maintain, if not slightly improve, his tackle numbers. And that is a D-end. I'm doing air quotes. I know you can't see that, but D-end, because he's really a linebacker, or D-lineman, whatever. Those are big numbers. And those are starter numbers. So keep that in mind on a guy that probably is on the waiver wire in 60% of the leagues. Now we go to our player to watch, and that's Devin Bush, linebacker. Man, he had a devastating ACL injury in 2020. I mean, just brutal. You hate to see it. You hate really anybody getting injured, but he had a great rookie year, and it was in the 5th game of the season, and he goes down, and he's just out the rest of the year. Now, in 2021, he played the whole season, but he was not nearly as explosive as he was pre-injury. That's common. Normally, players have a dip in production their first season after an ACL tear. We normally see it with wide receivers and running backs, but it's no different on the defensive side of the ball. They're all humans. They all recover in kind of the same strategy or capability. With defense, though, it's opportunity-driven rather than carries or touches-driven on the offensive side. But other concerns that I have for Bush is that the Steelers brought in Myles Jack to play alongside him. Granted, Myles Jack's coming off one of his less stellar years, but still, he's always been an athletic linebacker that has a nose for the football. Bush, even after his injury, missed 3 games last season, so there's starting to be a little bit of a trend there you get nervous about. And in order for Bush to be a valuable linebacker that you feel comfortable starting, he's got to get back over 100 tackles. He also played around 83% of snaps last year, so there's not a lot of room to go up there. It's just one of those things that in order to be a guy that you feel comfortable with and that you think is the right player for you to start, we're just set it forget it kind of consistency, they have to be getting those tackles per game. And once again, it's just brutal to see that he only had 70 tackles last year. And he played 83% of the snaps. Granted, he missed 3 games. I get that. So you can say that he's probably a little bit higher, but I mean, we're having the same conversation that we're having with Patrick Queen, except for Patrick Queen hasn't been hurt. He's just sucked. Devin Bush, we're hoping, will have a bounce-back year now that he's a year removed from the ACL injury, and he is on a great defense, and it will be schemed well. But the key is you got to get those tackles because you're not getting the sacks. TJ Watt's getting those sacks. Alex Highsmith's getting the sacks. Everybody on the D-line, led by Cameron Hayward, are getting the sacks. Your job is tackles, possibly some interceptions, pass defended, run stuffs. Get your job done. This year is kind of the player to watch. Like I said, player to watch for this year. It's my kind of, will he get back to that caliber of player or not? So that's it. We did it. We're done with all the bus breakouts and players to watch. We have done all of the divisions, NFC, AFC, and guess what? It's August. It's time for draft season. We're going to get into it. We're going to focus on it. I can't believe that when we're talking next Thursday, there will be football. Crappy football, but football nonetheless. And I know a week is a long time to wait, so don't you worry. We've got Fat Boys Dynasty podcast, and we have The Flex with Josh Rodriguez and AJ Kelly that will hold you over and get you ready for your dynasty leagues, get you ready for your redraft leagues. We are getting into redraft season. The Flex does a phenomenal job of talking through the players. And it's just straight entertaining. Both of the podcasts are. But we all know that defense wins fantasies. So I'll see you guys right here next week. This podcast has been presented by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network.